All right, this is probably the first time I met a content creator representing a global brand, F5 Networks. Yeah, we know you're no longer with F5, but man, it's been years, almost a couple of decades. So, without further ado, we have former F5 community evangelist and senior technical marketing specialist, the one and only Peter Silva. Welcome to Styx Talks.
All right. Hey, thanks, Dean, for the introduction and nice words. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Peter. We saw you doing many things. You did lightboarding, interviewing many people. You also did security research and creating many different kinds of video contents. This is one of a kind, a very unique career. And here's the thing: your role, you don't really sell, didn't you? You didn't implement solutions. But I believe,
early on in the early days, we were a sales overlay, but not not direct in the last, maybe 15 years.
Okay, but here's the thing: your role, your responsibility. I believe personally, you're making a huge impact with the company. Tell us about your journey, and of course, you've already verified it. It wasn't your first role with F5, right?
Yeah, no, I was hired in 2004 to be part of the original security business unit. So I was one of the first 3 security system architects at F5. That group only lasted about 2 years, give or take. Back then, F5 was still in that load balancing market, application delivery controller realm, and really wasn't in security. They bought URoam in 2003, which turned into their FirePass SSL VPN and eventually the Access Policy Manager, and then bought a company called Magnifier out of Israel in 2004, and that became the Traffic Shield web application firewall. And those, as you may know, progressed into big IP modules for the platform. And then I moved into, after that group kind of disbanded, and it was primarily due to the fact that the leaders of the SBU moved on, went on to other companies, and there really wasn't, at least at the time, right, early or mid aughts, we call it the mid aughts. F5 as a company really wasn't moving hard into the security realm because it was still those situations where they'd bring the big IP out to the customer for the 30-day trials, show up and sign the contract. Soon after that, though, as we started to get into organizations using FirePass SSL VPN, then it kind of gradually got into that realm. So from like 2006 till about 2011, I was the technical marketing manager or senior technical marketing manager covering security. And again, another new role at the time. We didn't have that position. And so we were kind of tasked to be the technical storytellers, those who can take the advanced technical information and then be able to express it, tell stories, write white papers that the masses could understand. Because at the time, there was still that transition. A lot of people were still tied to IPsec. So how should we move from a client with IPsec to a concentrator over to a browser-based SSL VPN? So there was a lot of that education going on. At the time, I was kind of the primary spokesperson as it pertains to security for the company. So meeting with analysts, writing the white papers. After YouTube came out in 2007, that was around the time, 2008, I want to say, where I went to my boss, Ken Salco. He's still with the company. You might have heard the name. He runs the certification education program there now. And as a side note, he's the godfather of our daughter. So we're, you know,
Pretty close.
we're Ohana, as they say. That's when I kind of started doing videos. So what you might not know is I studied, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor, a movie star. So I even went to college. My undergraduate college degree is in theater arts. So I studied acting, directing, took ballet for 2 years, you know,
Well, hey,
studying scripts, English literature, writing a lot. So that was really where I was headed from a where I thought from a professional standpoint, I was gonna go be a performer in one way or another. Once I started studying the craft and all that, then it wasn't so much I want to be a movie star. That kind of dwindled away. It was more, I want to be a creator. I want to be an artist. I want to, like tell these stories on stage.
price yourself.
I even went to grad school for stage direction. So I was like halfway through my MFA, like 8 credits away. And I ended up getting a job at a local theater in Milwaukee because I went to Marquette University. I was the box office manager, and I was making I think I was making $17,500 in 1989. I'm like, shit, I'm on salary. I can so I dropped out. Didn't finish my MFA. I just started working full time in the theater because by that point I started thinking about, well, maybe I want to be a managing director. Maybe I want to be a producer. Maybe it's not just that one role in the company. It's more about maybe running the place. I ended up working in various theaters in multiple administrative modes, and then happened to work for a theater in Chicago, the Auditorium. So it's kind of this weird. I grew up wanting to be an actor, but my dad was an IBMer for 30 years. So I just grew up with computers in the house. So I was programming BASIC and Pascal, that kind of stuff, like in high school. But it never really was sort of one of those things that I necessarily wanted to pursue. I was working in this one theater in Chicago, the Auditorium. Showboat was coming in, and this was 90, I want to say 94, 95, give or take. I know I'm jumping, I was sort of in the 2010 realm with F5. Now I'm jumping back to 1995. I get that, but it kind of will bring it back to the 2008, 2009 in a moment. So that was the point where the Auditorium Theater in Chicago was where First Run New York tours generally was the first stop on their tour. And Showboat, which is a Broadway musical, Old Man River, bum, bum, was coming in. And it happened to be one of the first, if not the first show that Ticketmaster sold online. So I was working for the house, and, Ticketmaster was the ticketing facility, and we still had the hard, those hard theater tickets in the slots in the box office. And that was kind of that moment where it was one of these things, and I had a Sprint dial account on the web early on, surfing Yahoo in 95. And to be a successful Broadway actor, you have to be the actor, singer, dancer, that triple threat, they call it. And I was looking at this internet thing and working in the theater and seeing technology. And at the time I had this inkling that at some point, this internet, this wired connection would become our entertainment medium of the future. And then that's when I started thinking, well, shit, maybe it's not this, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just the entertainment industry is where I want to be headed. And so I looked at myself, and I had the technical skills just growing up with computers. I was always the ad hoc systems administrator in the theaters I worked in. I still remember, connecting an Apple Talk network at the Milwaukee Rep way back in like 97 or no, before that, like 90, 94, 93. I had the creativity because I basically studied theater. I knew stories and scripts and character development and the whole story arc and that kind of stuff. I could speak in front of folks. So the technical knowledge, the creativity, and then the business acumen, because I always worked in the administrative end of theater. And so I looked at the internet as that was maybe my triple threat, creativity and all that, to get into this whole internet thing. So I quit the theater. I went to work 100% commission for this one small VAR selling it was the old Netopia ISDN router. They looked like a spaceship. From that, I was worked there for 3 months. And then I pretty much, because I had earrings, I pretty much acted my way into a job at AT&T. They were still copperheads selling the direct inbound dial and 800 service and all that. And they're like, you surf the web, you got an earring, you know the internet, come on over. It was pretty wild. And so I was one of the first 6 internet specialists at AT&T back when we were provisioning on the old BBN backbone. And that's kind of where I got my formal training in the internet and blah, blah, blah. So there, is this kind of transition from being in the theater or wanting to entertain and that kind of stuff into a more, this technical realm and the way that we deliver entertainment, at least in my head, in the future. So then as we go back to, or actually fast forward to 2008, 2009, it was one of those things where I'm like, well, I want to start doing videos. And I started to create this series called In 5 Minutes or Less. And it was just, showing how to configure something on a big IP in a short amount of time. And that got really popular. It really took off. And then I started to do those interviews at the trade shows. This 2009, nobody was doing it. I like to brag, like, not to say that I invented the trade show interview, at least in the tech realm. But I definitely know that I was one of the pioneers when it comes to just that on-site with a camera and a mic, asking somebody questions and letting them tell their story. You go to a trade show today, everybody's got their setup with their interviewers and hosts and studios and that kind of stuff. What was kind of funny is the executives at the time were like, why is he doing this video stuff? Like, we don't need, why do we need video? We don't, because it was all white papers and solution briefs and product guides and all that printable PDF stuff at the time. But my boss,
those are the early days of YouTube.
Yeah, it was like
the tech world.
The boss was like, don't pay attention to him, just keep doing what you're doing. And then it started to, take off. Then it became one of those things like, oh, we have a launch for the new version of this. We want a video for it. We got another trade show. We want you to go. And it just like, it was one of those things where it was like, look, I think this is a good idea. I'm going to give it a try. Let's see how it goes. At first, there was a little bit resistance, but once they saw the impact to the business and the results in terms of awareness and views and engagement, then they were like, 100% on board and let's go for it. A long-winded answer to your question. So that's kind of how I got got into all that. And then just, kind of continued to refine. And then, as we got more people in the company, and again, at the time, 2009 to 2015, I was like the one to do all that for the organization. And then we started to get more folks in, and certainly folks on the Dev Central team started to do video. In fact, I think it was Joe Pruitt, even many years ago, he was doing a daily dose of Dev Central or something. And that was kind of that spark, like, I want to do that too. And then as we got more people on the Dev Central team who could get on camera and speak with charisma and authority, then I started to try to just, keep, I wouldn't necessarily say mentor or train, but, kind of give folks the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. And now, Boo Lamb is now, it's kind of his show now. And it's really cool to see this, how he, came on the team and sort of showed him the ropes, and now he's running this stuff. It's awesome. I like it.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. I believe you, those days, you won't see, not too many probably very, very rare that a tech company will have someone like you who go to
Yeah.
trade shows, the interview, who's very active creating content, IT related contents. Those
Right.
times, yeah, it was very rare.
It's good
Okay.
times though. I got the, you know, I got it. I every day, I would tell people how much, you know, uh, what's the word? Grateful. You know, I was really grateful. I loved my job. Being able to kind of do, how do I say this? Like, be able to kind of do your passion, that, you know, stuff in front of the camera, telling stories, performance, if you will, with just that, you know, the knowledge that rubs off on you over the course of your life. So I felt really, really fortunate that I could take, you know, my, what I studied in college, which has in a lot of ways nothing to do with tech, right? You know, playing characters on stage is completely different than installing a router. But if you can maybe combine those two and be able to tell a compelling story about a router with certain metaphors that help people understand what this device does, I think like that's the sweet spot right there. It truly is.